Hey YA book lovers, I have some great news for you. Netflix just announced that they are going to have a second season of their surprise hit fantasy show, Shadow and Bone. Now the only question I have is, what are we going to do with ourselves while we're waiting for season 2? If you haven't already, I highly encourage you to check out the books that the show is based on. The Shadow and Bones trilogy, which features Alina facing off against the Darkling, and the Six of Crows duology, which is a larger-than-life heist story featuring Kaz and the gang. But let's assume, like me, you've already devoured those. Never fear, I have the perfect novel to tie us over until we get our next grishaverse fix, and that is Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse. If you love the immersive world building, diverse characters, and exciting action in Shadow and Bone, then you are sure to love this soon-to-be trilogy. Black Sun follows the story of 3 very different protagonists, whose connections to one another slowly become more apparent as the story unfolds. First, there's Serapio, a sensitive young man who's been training since birth to become the vessel for his people's vengeful crow god. Then there's Naran Pa, a novice sun priestess who is slowly discovering that not even her position as emissary to the gods can overcome her impoverished past in the eyes of her very privileged followers. And finally, Shiala, a roguish captain without a crew, just trying to make her way in the world after she's been banished from her island home under mysterious circumstances. I found every single one of these underdog characters to be extremely compelling, which doesn't always happen when you have a book with this many main characters. But they're all driven and they have clear motivations, and I found myself rooting for all of them somehow, even when they were on opposite sides of an impending war. Like Grishaverse stories, all the characters in this are very diverse. Serapio is blind and Shiala is bisexual. There are secondary characters who are trans and non-binary, and all of the main characters are implied to be people of color. The world building is lush and immersive, definitely on par with the fantasy-inspired Shadow and Bone, but instead of European influences, Roanhorse pulls from a Mesoamerican, South American, pre-Columbian source of inspiration for her magic-infused continent, which is full of many rich cultures, and even to a seasoned fantasy reader like myself, it felt really new and fresh. Like Shadow and Bone, Black Sun deals with really heavy themes of persecution, power, and religion, but through a more adult lens. All of our main characters have 2 things in common. First, they're powerful, whether that power comes from society, religion, or just physical magical power. And second, they've all experienced oppression. This story is really interested in the way that trauma influences the way each of these characters express and wields their power. While Naran Pa believes that she can wield the mantle of the Sun Priest to fundamentally reform the injustices that hurt her as a child, Serapio, on the other hand, believes the only way forward is to completely destroy the unjust systems responsible for his people's genocide. If I had to complain about anything, this book is a little bit light on plot. It definitely feels like the first part of a trilogy. A lot of the book is focused on flashbacks, which tell the story and the backstory of our characters, but don't really serve to move the plot forward very quickly. There aren't many action sequences until the very end of the book, which, I kid you not, ends on a literal cliffhanger. But the sequel is set to come out in March of 2022, which is still sooner than Shadow and Bone Season 2. So if you're looking for something immersive with a fantasy twist and diverse characters to hold you over until then, I definitely recommend that you read Black Sun.